Welcome to the Social Media Church podcast. I'm Neil Smith, joined by my new friend, Brad Zimmerman. Brad, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
So one of the things that I love about this podcast is it has given me the excuse to get to know people that I have seen and gotten, met online, but wanted to put a microphone in the middle of that conversation so that other people can get to know these people. And this podcast, in many ways, started as a way for DJ Chuang to get to know people around the online ministry world. And then Jay Cranda and I were having a conversation, and DJ was like, if we could just put a microphone in the middle of this and let other people listen in, and we're like, let's do that. And that's what we're doing today. Brad and I have never met really and had a conversation other than just, some social media interactions. And so I'm going to get to know Brad. Brad's going to get to know me, and we're going to get to know each other through this conversation. So Brad, as we get to know each other, tell me and tell the Social Media Church family who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Brad Zimmerman. A lot of people know me as like, are you that Pro Presenter guy?
Yeah.
And so I do all the official training materials for Renewed Vision for Pro Presenter. I did some PvP tutorials back in the day, but I've been doing those since Pro Presenter 5, I believe, and we're on Pro Presenter 7.13.1 now. So we're like quite a ways in, and so I just do that as contracted work. I don't actually work for Renewed Vision. I work for a local church in West Michigan, so I live in Grand Haven, right on the lake. And here I am a creative director who's worn a lot of hats and continues to wear a lot. So I was a youth pastor for a while. I'm a kind of a MD position on Sunday mornings more than I am in the booth. So I don't actually run sound or media on any given Sunday. I'm usually playing electric or drums or something like that. I love music. And then I also, back in the day, I started this video podcast before YouTube allowed long-form video content called churchmediadesign.tv. And they were like hour-long TV episodes for people who work in church media, where I did tutorials and gave inspiration and told people where to find free content, because I was working at a church where my budget for a year was like $900 for a year, and that only covered batteries. Basically, that was my budget, was just for batteries for wireless microphones. And so I was always trying to like help share that stuff. And so I did over 100 episodes of that podcast, and then that transformed, kind of died away as I started the whole Pro Presenter thing. And then that transitioned into churchmediadrop.com, which is a free resourcing site that I run that has, we see tens of thousands of churches download content from the site for Easter and Christmas and series graphics and motion backgrounds. And so I put all of my designs and content on there, and then other providers and other church media people and designers put their content on the site for free for churches to use. So that's broad strokes of me and kind of what I do. And I keep my hands in a lot of different pots.
I love it. And I have definitely seen a lot of those different things. And there's so many different pathways I want to go for this conversation today. And really one of the things that I really want to pick your brain around is even just affordable gear. One of the things I love, even looking at Church Media Drop, and I'm curious about, is like, why do you do this? How do you do it? Like, how do you pay your bills? And you obviously have a day job at a church. And so there's so many questions I have. But I love, bottom line is, thank you for your generosity. What you put and make available through Church Media Drop is incredible. So let's start with that. Where did that vision come from? Why did you create it? What are your hopes for it? What do you celebrate through it? What's the story?
Yeah. So, churchmediadesign.tv, I had been giving away free content, and I would do like a new freebie every episode was my goal of that. And so I had about 100 and some freebies that I had been giving away. And the site was just out of date. I wasn't doing tutorials anymore, and really felt like I needed to do a web design refresh. And when I was doing that, I was also feeling like I think I want to rethink this whole thing in the midst of that. So this was 2006, maybe. I can't remember how many years ago it's been. It's been a while. And so in that refresh, I was looking at different plugins and came across easy digital downloads. And I was trying to find a new way to track downloads and all of that kind of stuff. And honestly, some of it was just like the tool was available. And I was like, well, this is really cool. And they're like, turn your website into a marketplace. And I was a big fan of creative, the creative market. Is that what it's called? Why am I blanking on? I believe that's the name of it, right? Anyway,
I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was, on a lot of these marketplaces and was like, man, this would be awesome. And so I floated some name ideas out to a few different close friends who work in the industry and stuff like that, and kind of landed on keeping the CMD, because CMD had kind of been my thing for a long time, but just kind of changing the design to drop so that it could be all of these different drops that people could grab and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I added this marketplace plugin so that anybody could sign up to submit content and control their own content and get free advertising on the site for if they were a designer and wanted to do paid work, just to kind of be able to push that back. And it's all run through Amazon servers, so it's fairly inexpensive. Some of the files get a little large when you have like gigabyte downloads and stuff like that bandwidth starts adding up. But I went a year without having an advertiser and was still able to pay all the bills and didn't have to take that out of my own pocket. So that was really awesome. But I've been privileged to be able to have an advertiser every year except for one throughout. Okay. And so right now, MXU is my sponsor on the site, and they're an awesome team. Guys doing a great job of resourcing the local church and with high quality content. And so super thankful for that team being a part of it right now. But yeah, I really have a heart. I felt like when God called me into ministry, he was saying, I want you to be a part of the local church, and I want you to resource the local church.
Yeah.
And so back in the church media design.tv days, I was at I don't know if you remember the Echo conference in Dallas that the Niter team did and stuff like that. So I was a part of all of those Echo conferences. And one time I was down there and I'm hanging out with Jonathan Mullen, which a lot of us know. And Jonathan was like, okay, so, like, cool, Brad, you're doing this thing, but like, what's the dream? And I was like, well, I felt like God called me to this. He's like, well, cool, I get that God called you to it, but like, what is the goal? Like, how will you know if you've fulfilled that calling? And I really hated that question. And because I was like, hi, can it just be a call? But he was like, no, I think you need to put a number on it. I think you need to have like a goal so you have a purpose behind what you're doing. And so I set a goal of resourcing 100,000 churches. I, at that point, could figure that I was at about 10,000 churches. And so my new goal was like, I think there's probably over 100. I didn't even know the numbers of how many churches there were in the United States or around the world. But I was like, I think I want to shoot for 100,000 churches, 10 times what I had been reaching. Wow. And I feel like this new site will help me be able to do that and stuff like that. And so when I first launched Church Media Drop, I had it set up that you could download content without entering an email, without anything. I was just getting download count numbers, and I was getting unique website viewer numbers. And during that season, I saw over 100,000 uniques and millions of downloads and stuff like that. This past year in November, I switched my download plugin, and now I have to take email addresses, and I'm already over 20,000 unique people downloading content.
Wow.
So, and that's only in 6 months or so. And so I'll be really curious where I'm at a year or two from now. And again, that's not to like toot my own horn. That's for me just to know, like, am I accomplishing the goal, and am I actually being effective? Do people still want to use the site, or is it past its due? Has AI taken over so much that I don't really need to do this anymore? All of that kind of stuff. So,
I love it. I love it. And it's always interesting to hear the business model
Sure.
behind some of these, entities that are serving the church, because I think there's often a pessimism of, oh, what's the catch?
Yeah.
Especially when you're giving away something for free. And I feel like I've been in this space long enough to know that most people don't go into the church space to create a catch for the church. They just genuinely want to. They've got to figure out a business model that works to allow them to be able to make the investment into the church. But I think most people are not coming to serve the church because of the great profit margins that are in serving the church. They genuinely just want to serve the church. And I think at the end of the day, what's clear to me is your heart is to freely serve the church, and MXU has then made it available. And that's the one catch. And it's not really a catch because they're actually just promoting another great resource there on your site. And that's what's allowing you to give away to churches such great resources. I love it, man.
Yeah.
Love it.
And just to be clear for anybody who's wondering, I don't make really any money. I make enough to cover the bills. So Church Media Drop is not something that I could like quit my day job and like sit back on that advertising. So some people have pushed me of like, why aren't you trying to make more with it? And honestly, I decided from day one that if it ever turned into something paid, I would shut it down. That like if I ever forced some like had a paid side of it or whatever, if I ever thought that it was like time to call it quits, because I wanted it to be a free and clear. This is just all free. It's all forever free. And I even have a policy that like once content goes up there, unless there's like a legal dispute, content can't be taken down. So
interesting.
I don't want people to be like, oh, there was something on there 1 month and now it's gone the next. It's like, no, what you saw there 3 years ago is still there today. So
so interesting. You actually brought up the AI conversation. And so, and I'm sure you've got your eye on AI when it comes to church media. Where do you think this is going in the AI world, or maybe are there any tools you're playing with already that you think are interesting for church leaders?
Yeah, I mean, it is incredible. It is a little troublesome. It is really going to hit ahead during our next election cycle. And I think that will really kind of honestly set some tone of like what's allowed and what's not, and how fast tools move to let you know what's real and what's not. Because there's a podcast that is right now being distributed that is 100% AI. So the script, the voice, the everything, the album artwork, the Instagram account, all of it is 100% automated, 100% AI. And it's amazing. And most people would never know that it's fake. And so Rob, who created that, is a guy that I watch and to see what's going on, because he has a lot more time to play than I do. And so there's some really cool. So 11 Labs is something that I hope to spend some more time with this summer, that can do voice cloning and then allows you to use text to speech. And I've already seen it used in multiple other podcasts where they've cloned their own voice or their co-host voice, and then they make their co-host say stuff that they would never say on their own podcast. But I mean, imagine being able to do a daily devotional from your pastor, and your pastor never has to say anything. You could just use your pastor's voice. They could write it, or use ChatGPT to start writing it, and then you could edit that and finalize it, and then feed that in, and now you have a daily audio devotional. And this is more manual than what Rob's doing with his podcast, but you can take it to that fully automated place if you really wanted to. Now, you get into a lot of ethical things when you start going down that road. And I think that's the big thing that churches are going to have to weigh out, is the other side. But for me, the ethical side. But for me, the reason I want to know a lot about it, and why I would encourage anybody who's listening to dive deep into it as much as you can right now, is so that we can pastor and shepherd people through this massive change in the way our culture works. Because it should not be that you show up to a church and hear that the sky is falling and that AI robots are going to take over and that Jesus has no place anymore and that the world, computers are trying to take over, like that shouldn't be the conversation in the church. The conversation should be, how can we use these things, understand the good and the bad of them, but not be scared of them, not see it as a doom or gloom. This isn't something that gets in the way of people finding Jesus, finding a faith family, finding a mission to be on. It doesn't get in the way of those things. And so I really want to help the church not be scared and not go to that place that has often happened. If you look through history, these massive changes a lot of times, I'd rather see it more as a printing press moment where we have the Bible be one of the first things that's being used for it, than have it be, Salem witch trials and like a lot of these other things where people get scared of and kind of demonize things. So.
Yeah. And we've seen this historically in the church of like when websites came along, it was like, we shouldn't have a website because the internet is all about pornography, or social media came along. It was like, that's only used for people to cheat on their spouses. And no doubt the internet was primarily used for pornography in the early days, and it continues to be used for, very bad things. But it's also one of the greatest tools we've ever had to share the gospel. And social media, simultaneously. AI though, I will say that, and maybe it's just me getting older in my 40s now. I feel like I'm seeing the fear factor realities more than I have in the past of this is a very serious, the ethical side of AI, to me feels way more complicated than what was with the internet early days or social media. And that's where I don't know. It's like, is this me just being older, or is this the reality like AI? But I do think regardless, it's coming and it is going to create opportunities. But I think to your point is, we just like social media, we needed to, or even the internet, like when we just villainize it, we're not able to help people have a healthy relationship with it. And social media, the same thing of we need to shepherd our people to have a healthy relationship with social media, because it's a great way to stay connected to your family. It's a great way to stay connected to your church family and your church community. And it's also a terrible way to waste hours and hours and hours a day down the TikTok algorithm. So it is complicated, but AI, I think we all need to be learning, whether you're techie or not a techie. You need to be spending time even researching and understanding. That's such a good word, Brad. I want to shift the conversation, if we can, away from what probably the nerds are going to enjoy. And I always think about my dad, who is, in his late 60s, pastors a small church of about 150 outside of Houston. And what tools should he be using? And so as you're very focused on resourcing the church and providing, low cost tools and options, I would love to hear both hardware and software and, media maybe. What are some of the key tools that you would recommend to pastors and church leaders like my dad that have that $90 a year budget and I say $90, but the sub $1,000 a year budget, but really want to be on YouTube and want to, have a media presence?
Yeah. I mean, for one, your smartphone is one of the most powerful tools they finally came out with an official ChatGPT app for iPhones. I don't think it's out for Android yet, but you can be using all of the really good and easy to use AI tools are all cloud-based. There are local tools that you can be using on your computer, but all of the good and easy ones to use, like Midjourney and ChatGPT, those are all cloud-based. And so using Discord on your phone, using the ChatGPT app on your phone, like you can do all of this from your smartphone. My friend Adam just started a smartphone storytellers YouTube channel where he teaches church leaders how to use their smartphone to create great content and understand what it takes to make your phone look amazing and the tools that you need and everything behind it. He's at Seacoast Church and just does awesome work. And so, so there's some really amazing things that you can do with your phone. When it comes to like computers and stuff like that, I have always been an equal opportunist. I design on a PC and I use Macs in production environments. And so I've always used both of them pretty much equally. But I gotta say, when Apple came out with their new silicone, man, is it powerful and crazy for the price. So the Mac Mini M2 baseline one computer that they have that's sub $1,000, I think it's even sub $900, is an incredibly powerful computer. And so much so that, like, I think Apple's kind of downplaying how much it kicks the butt of their old $20,000 computers because it's so good. And and that's the crazy thing about the new Apple Vision, their new headset deal, is that it's got that M2 processor in this headset, along with a whole nother processor doing all sorts of other stuff. So, I mean, it's just incredible what that processor does. And those computers are I have an M1 Mac Mini and then this external enclosure that gives me some more outputs, but I can do 6 physical outputs from an M1 Mac Mini for ProPresenter to run multiple screens. And during the pandemic, we were doing live streaming. I had TVs on the stage with virtual band members playing with our live band at the same time, and our live stream and our main screen in the room for people who are in person. And all of that was running from one computer. So, like, you don't have to have crazy hardware or spend a ton of money to do some of this stuff. And so I would highly recommend that if anybody's looking for a computer to, like, it cost-wise, you're not going to get a PC, honestly, that is as fast and can do as much as that one of those Mac Minis can do for you. When it comes to designing, for a long time, I was like, Canva, I hate the word Canva. I don't want to hear Canva. This is like the new PowerPoint. This is the new Microsoft Word. This is like the help church secretary who doesn't know how to design to come up with bad clip art. That's what it felt like for me when it first came out. Now, Canva has changed and is doing some really incredible stuff. You can do really amazing designs for free without ever paying any money for anything. There's some really great designers. There's a great Canva church group on Facebook that you can join, that people are posting, like Father's Day, as we're recording this, Father's Day is coming up this weekend, and there's like tons of designs on there that you can go and quickly edit and adjust. And again, you don't have to have a great computer. You don't have to pay for anything. As much as I'm an Adobe guy through and through, and have used it since CS1, or even before the Creative Suite, Canva's pretty hard to beat these days as far as like what it can do for most people working in churches that need to create a quick thing for social media or even screen content on Sunday mornings. So as much as I don't like promoting that, just because it feels like this really hokey, cheap clip art thing, it's not that anymore. And they've included new AI tools into their suite of stuff. It does not match what Photoshop can do. Holy cow. Photoshop's new AI stuff that's in beta is amazing and mind-blowing. So those are some things. And then when it comes to like other gear stuff, if you want to get into like gear world, Companion is a free open source piece of software that allows you to use a Stream Deck, which is these little things that Elgato created for gamers. They're just like a multi-button surface. You can get a 6-button, a 15-button, or a 32-button, and now they have one with some dials on it. But what Companion allows you to do is to control production gear, not just software on your computer. And so I can, on a Sunday morning, I can control my soundboard, my lighting gear, ProPresenter. We have automated shades because we have windows on 3 sides of our room, so it's very bright. And so I have shades, my projector, my power amps. I've installed these in kids' classrooms so that they don't even have to have a computer in the room. They just press buttons on this wall surface, and Companion is totally free. So there is no cost to it. And you can download it. Even if you don't own the device, you can use it still on your phone and just like click on the buttons in like a virtual surface. but you can download it and see like, what gear do I have that works with this? Basically, it just has to be able to connect to your network. So if your soundboard is hooked up to your network, if your lighting console can be hooked up to your network, or your lighting software can be hooked up, and so you can do all sorts of crazy stuff with that. And so I leverage that thing to the nines. I literally have a button that says start gathering that my sound guy presses on a Sunday morning, and it does everything. It like fades out music playback. It stops music playback. It changes the lighting. It puts my shades down. It sets a new scene on the audio console and starts tracks for the band all in one button press. That's all like delayed through properly. And again, it's totally free. It just takes some time to mess around and understand it. So I'm a huge, huge fan of that, because again, it works with tons of different gear. So you might have, like for me, I'm one of those churches that bought an X32 years ago. And a lot of people are like, there's so many better consoles and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, the Companion makes my X32 do stuff that like other consoles that are twice the price can't do, or you're paying like 5 times the price to be able to do. And Companion makes stuff, my X32 do things that my X32 can't do without Companion. So I can do automated fader moves. I can do all sorts of wild stuff on there. Yeah. And so it can take an old dusty tool that might feel like it's at its end of days and maximize it and bring it to life in new ways. I kind of look at it like I have a really old Pontiac Vibe, and I threw a Apple CarPlay screen in there, and now I feel like I have a modern car. And I feel like that's what Companion can do for a lot of people's production gear, is can kind of take it to this whole new modern level, even though it might be older stuff. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. That's such good feedback. And I think there are so many options out there for churches. And I think people are often like, man, if I only had this or only had that. And I think at the end of the day, we all have we've all got a powerful computer in our pockets. But I think even we can, basically take the next step up without major expense. We talked to you before this call. I just got the new Mac Mini, and it's overwhelming in some ways, but there's some new learnings and how to work it. And it sometimes comes with change, but I think that the speed and the processing of what's possible, that barrier, as I even think about what it took for churches to be on television, 15 years ago versus now, we can all live stream so simply and easily, that the barrier is so much lower than it's ever been in the quality of cameras that we have access to, the quality of software we have access to, the quality of processing we have access to, the speed of internet we have access to. It's really unbelievable. Brad, as we get into it, and I love, I can tell you, it feels that you're an Apple fanboy. I am an Apple, I am an Apple non-fanboy, but I am addicted to Apple as I've gone through this journey of trying to leave Apple. But the products are just so stinking good. I end up just paying the money, and honestly paying more money, because I tried to go away from Apple and I pay for the product that doesn't work as good as the Apple products, and I come back over and over and over again. The Vision Pro is, $3,500 mixed reality headset. I would love to know. I'm sure you've watched and you've
I have
researched it a little bit. What are your opinions when it comes to the Apple Vision Pro?
Okay, so I was actually talking to some people yesterday about this, and I didn't watch this video. So I was talking to Brad Weston from Renewed Vision. He started that company, and he had watched a lot more and was informing me about some different things. One is the price tag of the Vision has a lot more to do with supply chain than it does with the device itself. They actually don't have the infrastructure / the manufacturing capability to produce tons of these. And so they had to price it at a point where they wouldn't sell out immediately. And so there's actually a limit on the amount of those little tiny screens, those super high definition screens that are inside the headset.
Yes.
There's a limit on how many they can get per year from their manufacturer. And so that limits the amount of devices they can actually create. And then if you think if any of those screens are bad, now there's not more to get. They just have less to be able to sell. And so there is a whole like supply chain side of things. And it's a version 1 product that they are purposefully limiting the amount of people who can get it so they can figure it out and real world test it on people who have $3,500 to throw down to get one. So that's like one whole like side note thing. Overall, I failed. I don't know when you got glasses. I failed my pre-kindergarten testing. They used to call it DK when I was in it. So I failed my DK testing for my eyes. And so I have had my glasses basically my entire life. And even if I got LASIK, I would still wear glasses with regular lenses in them because I don't think I could live without these things on my face. So I'm used to having glasses, right? But I can't see a world where I would show up at a workplace and put on those goggles. I can see a world where if they were about the size of what I'm wearing right now, 100%, I would use it. And so I don't see them becoming normal, like normalized in culture until the form factor gets smaller. I think Apple has done the best job ever of trying to make them be transparent by showing your eyes on the outside, revealing the outside world to you. All of that stuff I think is genius. But at the end of the day, like they had a demo of, they were talking about like taking 3D photos or videos of your kid's birthday party. And somebody pointed out, like, at the end of the day, that kid's memory of that birthday party is going to be of dad wearing ugly goggles while we were singing happy birthday. So I am a huge fan of AR, augmented reality, where you can point your phone at your room and see if your IKEA couch fits, which currently exists. You can go on like the Target app, I think, has some similar stuff in it that you can see like how things fit in your room or see what color, like what a paint color looks like on your wall before you paint. Like all of that AR stuff, augmented reality, makes a ton of sense, and I see the usefulness of it. Being closed off into a Ready Player One VR world, to me, does not seem like something that makes sense to me. Now, I could be proved wrong and sound like somebody who does, but I keep going through it, and it just keeps not making sense until the form factor looks like our glasses. If the form factor looks like our glasses, then I can see that VR world becoming more. And Apple's trying to not do VR. They're trying to do mixed reality, which I, again, think is the way, which is more AR than it is VR. So augmented reality versus virtual reality. But I don't see pure virtual reality. People go into virtual churches. Like Life Church started it for a while, and I think they've already shut down their campus. And so I just don't see it being long lasting. I understand that it's really good for gaming. I understand that my children's generation might be super into it, and that might be the shift that it takes for them to grow up doing it. But honestly, I'm not going to get a headset for my kids. My kids aren't going to be allowed to have a smartphone until they're at least going to not be able to have a smartphone at school, period. But they're not going to be having smartphones until high school, most likely. And honestly, I would like to keep it to like an Apple Watch for my kids as long as I possibly can, because I don't want them to be addicted to devices, and I don't want them to be closed off to the world. I mean, I remember hearing years ago, I don't know if you've heard this before, that schools in Silicon Valley that where they are making all of this stuff are tech-free schools because the parents that are making this stuff on day-to-day basis see all of the harm that it does. And so, I don't know. That's where I'm at with all of it. Where are you at with all of it?
Well, so I've got a 13-year-old daughter and a 11-year-old daughter, and it's interesting, and so we could go down that whole path of like kids and technology, but we wrestle with it. My daughter, my 13-year-old, they both have phones. Mostly, we're in New York City. We want to be able to track them everywhere they go, but it's complicated. It's a tension we're managing all the time. But we definitely, like, my daughter wants TikTok right now. We're like, nope, we're not going down that path. But I have virtual reality headsets. I got the Oculus Go and then the Oculus Quest. My kids were into it for a little bit. I was into it for a little bit. I keep thinking it's going to go mainstream with each new,
version.
form there. And we use it for a couple months, and then I've got them just sitting here we haven't used them in 6 months. And I kind of see the same thing with this app. Now, I tried the Oculus Rift probably 7 years ago now, probably 8 or 9 years ago. And I thought, this is the future. And then Google Chrome or Google Glass Box or whatever, the thing you could put your phone
cardboard,
in,
cardboard.
It was like, okay, VR is moving quickly, and this is cool. And it's using the gyroscope in your phone and the two screens. And it was like, wow, this is the future, and it's going to be here quick. And now we're like 8 years later, and it's like, it's really not that much more adoption. Really, though, I think it's a lot of it. Like the phone is cool, but it's the apps in the phone that make it amazing. And I think the apps in Oculus are just, they're not that compelling to me. And so I do think, I mean, when I experience it, I'm like, I can see a future here, but it also feels like, man, as slow as the last 8 years have gone, it feels like we're probably another 8 years away from it really having mainstream effect. Now, that said, AI has kind of been like slow. And then this year was like, okay, we just jumped 10 years in like 6 months. So
most of the tools that people are using became like normal,
unfortunately, we lost Brad. But Brad, thank you so much for the incredible insights, and thank you for your generosity and the incredible work you're doing with Church Media Drop. We're so grateful for your commitment to the church. You're serving the church so generously, the incredible resources you're providing. And so we will have links to Brad's social media where you can connect with him, as well as Church Media Drop on the website and in the show notes at socialmedia.church. So make sure you go to socialmedia.church and get links to all of those things, and connect with us there. Brad, thank you for listening, and thanks everyone. Thank you, Brad. Put that out. Brad, thank you for sharing all of your insights, and thank you everyone for listening. We're so grateful for you being a part of the Social Media Church community. Connect with us on social media and all of our social media handles. And if you would, leave a rating or review on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on Stitcher, wherever it is that you're listening. We hope you'll leave a rating and a review to help others find this podcast and be a part of the conversation here at Social Media Church. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again on the next episode.